We'll be getting going, reviewing the whole website, basically how to use the Purple Chips website in the most efficient manner, and I'll be explaining a lot of the logic behind the things that you see, and so that you can understand how to get the most out of the site. And please feel free to ask me questions while I'm making the presentation. The more interactive it is, the better it is. Okay, well, it's 12 noon. So here we go. This is the beginning of the webinar for today. So how to use the Purple Chips website. What I'm going to show you is the agenda for today. First things first, let's look at the disclaimer. Everyone can read that. There will be a test later on. Now that you've all read it, let's move on to the agenda. So we have, we're going to do an overview of the website. I'm basically going to go page by page and show you what's involved in it, and then we can talk about starting a portfolio. And then after that, we'll answer your questions. Of course, if you have anything as I'm going along, please do use the chat box on your screen and write out your questions. And if you like, I can even unmute everybody. And let me see. Yeah, actually we have caller 01 who's not muted, so I'm going to mute everyone. But if you do have questions, when you do have questions, just send me a little note in the chat box, and I can unmute you, and you can actually speak to me, or you can use the chat box. So let's start with just a minute. We're going to go to the website. Oh, look at that! I better refresh this. So let's go to the website. And now, one thing I should mention is that I've been noticing that the bank servers are a little bit slower today. There's a lot of activity on the market. And so my access to the website is probably slower than what you see on your computer. So you'll have to be a little bit patient when I'm flipping through the pages. Sometimes it does take a little bit longer than what you would see. So the first page that we're on here is the dashboard. And actually, let me start over. I'm going to start right at the beginning here. Okay, so let's start with the dashboard. Now, this is presuming you've already logged into the website. And so you've got access to all the pages for subscribers. And the first thing we'll do is we'll go through the dashboard. I'm going to explain what you see and how to get the most out of this. So on top here, we have this thing called My Watch List. And basically what I've done here is I've actually selected stocks, for example, Amgen. And you see, if I click on Amgen, I'll be able to pull up a chart on that stock. Okay, and if I click on this little minus symbol, it says remove symbol from watch list. So I can press on that, and it's actually going to remove it from my watch list. So I go and I click on OK. Now it's going to go back to my dashboard, and Amgen will be off of my watch list. You can see how the bank servers are a little bit slower than what you see at home. And so now you see the watch list has changed. And so I've got Alliance data on there and Walgreens Boots Alliance, Walgreens otherwise. Now, when you look at this watch list, it shows the low valuation and the high valuation. And so you can see if I put my cursor over this Alliance data at 225, it's in light green. Light green means that it's a stock that is within 5% of the low valuation. So in other words, right now, Alliance Data is trading at $230.78. So it's very close to our low valuation target of 225. When and if Alliance Data goes below 225, then you will see this not being lime green, but rather it will turn into a bright green, like Walgreens Boots below it. So Walgreens Boots, you can see, is in a bright green, and that means that this stock is actually trading below the low valuation that we have. So you can see the last trade on this stock is $70.50, and our low valuation for Walgreens is $71. And again, whenever I scroll over that, there's a little legend that tells me exactly what it is I'm looking at. Now, on the high valuation, you can see the target is 270 on ADS. And if, for some reason, if ADS was above that, then this would be, in fact, yellow. It would be sort of pink or red, okay? And so those colors are not there, which means that the stock is well below its high valuation, which is, of course, logical since we're actually near the low end of the valuation range. Now, scrolling down a little bit, you have in the dashboard, and this is probably the most important page, the first page that anyone should visit when they look at the website. This page shows you all of the stocks, and this is updated all the time. Okay, it's showing you all the stocks that are currently at low valuation. So it actually takes the data and compiles it and gives you the list. So this is always being updated. And so if, for example, if Biogen, BIIB over here, was trading at 290, it would not be showing on this list because our low valuation is at 288. But it would be on this list because this list to the right shows the stocks that are within 5% of the low valuations. And the reason we show that is so that you can sort of get ready, so that you can be ready when you want to place an order. You just have to look at that and you know that that stock, like ADS, is getting close to a buy at 225, but it's not there yet. So those are all the stocks you should be watching carefully in case they get to those prices, if you want to buy something there. And the low valuations are the ones that are currently attractively valued based on our opinion. Now, we don't show the stocks that are at high valuations here because really what we're interested in doing is buying. We're not really shorting stocks. So, and plus these are great companies, so they're not candidates for short selling or anything like that. Now, let's see, does anyone have any questions so far on this part here on the dashboard? And by the way, on the right-hand side, the far right, you've got the latest tweets, okay? And you'll see basically the things that we post on Purple Chips or VIP Purple Chips, the two Twitter feeds that we have. Now, let's move on to the positions page. And if anyone has any, oh, by the way, I'm going to jump ahead here. The watch list, if you want to add a stock to your watch list, okay, there's an easy way to do this. What you do is you go to all Purple Chips, or let's say I want to go to the top 20 stocks. I'm going to add a couple of stocks that are in the top 20. So let's say that I want to add this company, Booking Holdings, which used to be called Priceline, by the way. So I go and I click on Add to Watch List, the little plus sign. I click on that. Successfully added to your watch list. Now I'll go back to the dashboard. And you can see that Booking Holdings is now on my watch list. Okay. And by the way, that little star that you see there, it says top picks. We're actually going to rename that. It should say top 20. So that's a top 20 Purple Chip stock. Now, if I click on this also, I'm going to get the chart for the stock. Well, you know what? I don't want to click on that one because I know we had, oh, there you go. So you can see here, okay, this is Booking Holdings. This is the detail on Booking Holdings. Current price is $21.77. Low valuation we see at $1,600. The high valuation is $2,030. So we wouldn't actually buy the stock right here. This valuation history column on this chart here, this is telling me that we had raised some time ago. We had raised the valuation range, and it gives you the detail right there. And that was back in August. When was that? And then, okay, and then we lowered the valuation range from 1550 to 1980, and then we raised it recently from 1350 to 1950, and 1600 to 2030. So that gives you the detail on where the valuation range was before. Now, if you scroll down a bit, you see the chart, and this is really the fun part. Now you see the earnings, which is the white line, and the yellow line is the stock price. And this is really something that we wanted to get right for years, and we finally figured it out. I give full credit to Raymond for coming up with the solutions for this. We figured out how to present this in the same way that I see it on my Thomson ONE system, which is a very, very expensive system, by the way. So we figured out the software and the mechanics of all this. So every time you see a purple chips chart, you're seeing the earnings overlaid on the stock price the way we like to see it. And by the way, this gives you a lot of information. When you look at this, and in this example, we're looking at Booking.com or Booking Holdings, and you can see that the earnings line is above the yellow stock price line in just about all the cases. This is telling you that the stock is at a high valuation. So it's probably higher risk if you buy it here. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, but it's giving you some information about valuation. If the stock was trading at, let's say, 16 or 1700, that same line, that white line, would be below most of the trading points. It would actually be coinciding with the low ends of the stock's trading range. Okay, and that makes sense because companies that continuously grow their earnings, the valuation keeps rising, but the stock price tends to, the channel of the stock price action tends to mirror the shape of the channel of the earnings, if you can understand that. So remember, if you have any questions, use that chat box at this point because I'm going to get technical here. Now, if I put the cursor on here, it's actually telling me the information for when that was. And like in the case of Booking.com, it started the month at 2034, traded as high as 2218, the low was 2174, and previously it closed at 2177. And that was with $77 of earnings per share. It says earnings, 77.1, and the PE ratio was 28 times. And if you scroll down the chart, you can actually see the PE changing here. So just a quick observation, right now we're trading at 28 times earnings, and I can see it's been down to 22, 20, 19, 20 over the years, 25, 27, 19, 20, 25, 22, 30. So that kind of tells you that this stock has a range of about 20 to about 30 on the PE multiple based on the current earnings pattern. So that tells you a lot of information right there. So that's kind of fun. Now let's go back to the dashboard, and I'm just going to finish up there. So we're back on the dashboard. We had added Booking.com. Of course, if you want to remove something, you just click on the minus, it takes it off. So you can find a stock, you can hit the plus sign, let's say in the all purple chips section here, and you can add it to your watch list, and you can remove it, or you can click on this and get the chart and the information, and then go back there. Now let's go back to positions now. We're going to look at this page. So remember, if you've got questions, please don't be shy. Write me something in a chat box and I'll refer to it because I am keeping an eye on that. And Blair, by the way, I've unmuted you, so if you've got any questions, just let me know. So going down to the positions page, this is an important one because, again, it shows you the high and low valuation for each stock that we're currently holding. And this is kind of fun because let's go down to J2 Global. Okay, if you look at this one, you've got the name of the company, you've got the symbol, and it tells you that this is a US stock. You can see the little American flag there next to the symbol. And if you go down a little further, you see Power Financial, PWF, with a little Canadian symbol. So that's Canadian stock. So let's go back to JCOM, J2 Global. This column here with position size, 2.5%. Most people know that if a stock doesn't pay a dividend, okay, we treat these as half positions. If they pay a dividend, we treat them as full positions. J2 Global doesn't pay a dividend, so it's a 2.5% position. So you can see the 2.5%. So that tells you right away, okay, that's a half position. This column here with entry date tells you that we bought this on January the 5th. We paid $75.10. The current price is $83.52. So that's not too bad, considering it's only been a couple of months. And we're already up 11.7%. The low valuation at the time when we bought the stock was around, actually the low valuation I think was around 75 when we bought it, but we lowered the low valuation to reflect maybe a little more volatility in the market. So we lowered it to 71, and the high valuation is currently at 87. So remember, this sort of pinkish color that I'm seeing here is indicating that it's within 5% of the high valuation target. So the stock is at $83.52, and our high valuation target is at $87. If you go down again, let's say to Henry Schein, okay, I'll just go through the example again. Again, we can tell this is a US stock. Here's the symbol, HSIC, 2.5% position. We bought it on February 13th at 65.12. Right now it's at 67.84, so we're up 4.4%. The low valuation was at $65, and the high valuation target is $77. Now keep in mind that most of you know this, but as the earnings evolve, we update the valuation range, and that valuation range could go up or down depending on how the earnings are going. So anytime you click on one of these symbols, let's go to Henry Schein, for example. If I click on the symbol, it should bring me to the stock and the chart, which is what you see there. And so you can see, in the case of Henry Schein, and by the way, this is a top 20 because it's got a little star next to it there. So Henry Schein, and you can see why it's a top 20 stock. Look at the straight, beautiful curve for the earnings is very, very flat over the years. So the stock price moves a lot, but the earnings don't. And that's the kind of thing we're always looking for. So this is a top 20 purple chip company. And you can see, based on the positioning of the earnings line, this stock is relatively cheap compared to where it's been over the years. So you've got all the data there. Now I'm going to go back. I'm just going to hit the back button. So it takes me back to the position page. And if you scroll down, you'll see that you can get the closed positions for 2018, the ones that we've already closed this year. So you see we've had some very nice gains so far. And then scrolling down a little further, you've got closed positions 2017, and it goes on for all the way down to 2012. So you can see that. Now let's go to the news page. The news page is showing basically the updates, the low valuations, any of the communications that we've had. Okay, weekend updates, if there was a webinar, actually the webinar would be in the webinar section there. And we do record these, by the way, so we're recording this webinar so that it will be available on the website if you have friends that want to see it. Now I'm going to go to valuation updates. And this is kind of an interesting page. A lot of people like this page because it tells them when we last updated the valuation range, and it's kind of interesting because you can see which way things are going. So in the case of, for example, United Natural Foods, the second one on the list here, you can see that we raised the range. So the indication arrow is pointing up and it's green. That's because it used to have a 36 to 59 range. Now it's actually 43 to 58. And that's because the earnings went up. We assessed it. We look at the balance sheet of the company and all the other metrics that we follow. And we figured that this company, a reasonable entry point would be somewhere around 43. That would be a low risk entry point, let's say, because that's what we're always shooting for, low risk entry points. And you can see Alliance Data was recently updated, and we lowered the range a little bit on Alliance Data. And I'll tell you why we did that. We lowered the low valuation because we looked at the balance sheet and we saw that there was quite a bit of debt. But the thing that's important to recognize with their debt is that Alliance Data is almost like a credit card company in that they have a large amount of debt, but it's actually part of operating the business where it's customer debts, if you will. And so it's not categorized the same way. It's kind of like a bank that has debts on the books, but those debts are backed up by collateral. And the same thing happens with companies like Alliance Data. So you can see that, and if I scroll down, you can see all the recent valuation range changes that we made, like Dollar Tree we changed on March the 9th. And by the way, there was a lot of them just in March because we just went through an earnings cycle. So we had a lot of the earnings from the end of last year, and so you can see that we updated probably about 250 companies just in the last 2 weeks. So there you go. Now we're going to go to all purple chips. Okay, now all purple chips. This is a listing of all the purple chip stocks. And the first thing you see, there's a little refresh button there. You can click on that. It's going to refresh. I know mine's already refreshed. Purple chip low count, 9 out of 242 stocks are showing, so 3.72% of the stocks are at low valuations. And if there's things that you see on the website that you think are redundant or think are very important, or something you'd like us to add, please do send us a comment and give us feedback, because we always appreciate it. Sometimes, obviously, we overlook things, and we'd like to know what you think of these. So if you scroll down all purple chips, you've got the company name, company symbol, okay, the current price, the low valuation, and the high valuation. And by the way, okay, Air Products, let's just talk about this for a second. So if I clicked on here, I would get the chart. We've already done that. If I clicked on the little plus system, it would add to the watch list. The current price is $171.98. Now I have a low valuation of $1. So why do I have a low valuation of $1? That sounds a little weird to think that, but what it means, when I put $1, it means that we're basically in standby until the earnings resume their upward trend. Now, what I'm going to do, I haven't checked this one, so I'm taking a little bit of a chance here. I want to make sure that this company, let's just have a look at the earnings line, because yes, so you see the earnings line is up to date, and you see the earnings line is still going down there, and it had 1 quarter up. So I'm saying that unless you've got 2 quarters up, we don't want to be touching this just yet. So we're not establishing a low valuation until we see a turnaround in that downward trend. We want to see a resumption of the upward trend in earnings. And so right now there's a $1 low valuation. That's why we put $1. It's still a purple chip. It's a good company, but we have to wait until the earnings resume their uptrend. So let's move down the list here. And again, when you see a company like FactSet with the little star next to it, that's a top 20 purple chip stock. Now I'm going to go up to the top of the list. And if I click on Canada, so right now we've got all. So this page has every purple chip, including the Canadian stocks. It's got the US one if I click on this little tab here, and then the Canadian one here. So I could click on Canada, and there's 38 stocks that fit the purple chips model. So you can see them right there. And you can tell which ones are in the buy zone, which ones are within 5%, like Laurentian Bank, which we bought very recently, by the way, at a better price than where it is now, which is fun. So that's the all purple chips. The top 20 page is just a listing of the top 20 stocks, the ones that all have stars, like Richelieu or Dollarama, that would be in the Canadian one. And so actually what we're going to be doing very soon is we're consolidating that page. What we're working on is trying to make the website as simple as possible. And then we're going to be adding features to it that we think are very valuable, like getting more information, more research out there for you. And so I think this is going to help people make more money and be better investors. And that's really our goal. If I click on the webinars tab, by the way, I'm going to try to keep this fairly short, so I think we can probably wrap this up in about 4 or 5 minutes. Webinars, you've got a summary of the webinars that we recorded, okay? And we're trying to do a webinar about once a month, different topics. And if you've got ideas for topics, I'd love to hear about them. If I click on the events page, this is strictly a page that announces the things that we have upcoming, like this webinar. You could have registered by just looking here, and then you click on that. And by clicking on that, it gives you the a little form to fill out. Let's just see what happens here. So you see there's a little form. I clicked on register. This would register me for the webinar, so I don't have to do anything else. And by doing that, then it sends me back the information that I need so that I can actually attend the webinar. If I go on the FAQ page, that's frequently asked questions. And so what's the difference between an action alert and an update? So you can click on these and you can expand the view, and it gives you a definition. And, you know, where can I find these things? It gives you all the answers to those very common questions that you might have. And then lastly, my subscription. This is kind of an interesting page. If you're a subscriber, one of the things, I'm just going to preface something here by saying that if I was a subscriber to a website, I would want to be able to have the option to cancel easily without any hassles. Because I know with some websites, you go and you subscribe, and then the thing that bothers you is that you can't get out of it. Or, you know, they ask you to phone and people don't pick up their phones, or, you know, you have to email them, they don't respond to you and all those things. That's terrible. So we don't believe in that business model. So if you're a subscriber, you've subscribed to Purple Chips, and let's say that your credit card has changed and you want to easily update your info, then you go to Update Payment Information. There's a little window that pops up. You can fill in the info. It's nice and easy. If you wanted to, I don't know, change your subscription, let's say join annual subscribers and you were monthly, then it would be, this little window would pop up and it gives you the option. If you had been a subscriber for a while and you want to view your invoices, now in my case, it doesn't have any invoices because guess what? I don't charge myself. If you wanted to cancel your subscription, you just hit the cancel button, boom, it's done. It's easy peasy. So that's pretty much the roundup of the Purple Chips website. So now I'm going to unmute everybody, and if anyone has any questions, this would be the time to bring them up. Questions about the website or comments, you know, I'd love to hear your feedback. So if anyone has anything for me, love to hear it. Go ahead.
I was wondering about the preferred shares. Are you going to do anything about the preferred shares on the website?
That's a good question. The preferred shares, they're a little bit of a tricky animal because it changes on a daily basis. It really depends what you pay for them. I mean, we have a view. We like preferred shares with resets. And if you want to get our report from Scotia McLeod, I'm happy to send it off to you. Just send me an email and I'll send you a copy of the daily or the report that we have on preferred shares that highlights some of them. And then you can do your own research, but I do not have anything on the website. That would be a little bit of a deviation from this right now, but down the road I could see that as the website gets bigger and more popular, we could certainly incorporate things like that. And it is in our plan to make the website as attractive as possible with more information for you. It's all about getting the most use for your money. So we're working on that. Do you have any other feedback? Does anyone have any more feedback on the website? Things they'd like to see, things they don't like, stuff like that? I'm always looking for feedback. Yeah.
Just wondering, as soon as a stock reaches low valuation, is that a buying point or do you have further filters?
Well, we go through, Kia, as you know, we go through a whole due diligence process, and sometimes a stock will hit a low valuation. It doesn't mean that we buy every stock that's at a low valuation, okay? We are pretty selective, and it depends on whether or not we already have a lot of stocks in that sector. You know, we have to go through everything before we pull the trigger, because we're doing this for a lot of people and we work with block trades. So we don't buy every single thing that hits a low valuation. You know, that would be challenging. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions for me about the Purple Chips website, or improvements you'd like to see, changes, anything like that? Things you like, things you don't like?
I like a lot the new chart system there, where you can see the earnings per share.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. That's something I was looking forward.
Yeah, well, you know, it's so funny that I think that is absolutely the gold in this site. There's nobody else, no one. Okay, we looked for years to find a simple way of incorporating someone else's work on that into the website, and we were never able to. And finally, we figured out, and I give full credit to Raymond Kenworthy for figuring this out. He figured out how we could do this mathematically so that the earnings line could be superimposed over the stock price, because it's a dynamic process. And, you know, it works beautifully, and it shows you exactly what I see on my very expensive Thomson One system. And I think that's a very, very valuable insight. When you can see an earnings curve for a stock, you understand the quality of that stock, you understand how they've weathered out previous storms, and you also get insight into valuation. So I think there's so much information in that. It amazes me that the Yahoos and the Googles on their finance pages don't show that. They should, because it's valuable information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And John,
Anyone else?
Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah. How about technical analysis? Is that something you have on your charts, or you don't?
No, we don't actually incorporate the technical analysis. There's a lot of free chart packages or softwares out there, so it's really easy. If you know, we can give you the ideas, and then you can go on a Yahoo, let's say, and do, or even on stock charts or things like that, and look at those things there. So we haven't done that, because that would really bog down the site. Those are very heavy things to plug in.
Okay.
And those are very common also. Now, what we do want to do, we're going to be adding features to the website. So, you know, down the road, you'll see a lot more analysis, a lot more research, the due diligence things that I think are important, you'll be able to see. And also, I want to introduce a page that's got my favorites, sort of links to other things that I think are important. And so those things will be coming up.
Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions for me? Oh, you know what? I do see a couple things here. Okay, sorry, I wasn't scrolling down on the chat box. And Brad is asking me, is there another way to list, like Alpha, the all purple chips, if we do not know what sector the stock it is in, and it's hard to find? That's a good point, Brad. So the search function, if you hit the stock symbol, it'll pull up the stock price, or it'll give you the information. For example, ADS. If I just do that on the dashboard, let's see what happens. So I've got Alliance data there. So it pulled up the ADS, and I can just click on that, and then I get the information. So use that little search box on the top, and it's quite handy. So you see there's the chart of ADS. So that worked pretty well. Thank goodness. I didn't have a Microsoft moment there. And Yvonne's asking me, let's see, MTY seems like a good company. Yvonne's really stuck on MTY. I like it too, Yvonne. It's a good company. MTY is a good company. Is the purple chips, are we only going to buy it at 50 bucks? The answer is yes. I'm going to stick to the plan. Diane is asking, a simple summary, buy dark green and sell light green. No, buy dark green and watch the light green, and the red is when you sell. Okay, so Diane, don't mix them up. Brad is saying, let's say, thank you, you're welcome. And okay, so I think that kind of wraps it up unless anyone has any last questions for me. I'm looking at the chat box. I don't see anything here. So I guess that's going to conclude it. And I'm going to go back to the presentation here. So we had this, let's see. Let's go to the next page. Okay, next webinar, April 10th, 2018. I don't have a topic yet. And so I'm going to rely on everyone, or if the markets do something wild, it'll certainly inspire us to come up with an interesting topic. So we are planning a webinar April 10th at 12 noon and at 6 p.m. And by the way, if you have friends that want to listen in on the webinar, there's one at 6 p.m. today if they want to listen to it live, because I'll be doing the same webinar at 6 p.m. So if you've got people who want to register for that one, just let them know, or let us know. Send us an email to info@purplechips, or sign them up with the registration there, and that would be great. And so I guess this pretty much wraps it up. And I just want to thank everyone for attending. It's always fun. I love doing this, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you again. So I'm John Schwinghammer, the author of Purple Chips, and this is the end of today's webinar, and I hope to speak to you soon. So thank you very much. Thanks for attending. Done. Thank you.